Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 488 to 489 for the 26th to 27 of June 2023 for the Ukraine war or the special military operation in Ukraine. And let's start off with the major news, probably more interested by the pro-Russian side of the viewers. The private military contractors, the Wagner group, will be surrendering all their armored vehicles to the Russian military. Information coming from the Russian Defense Ministry, and of course, yeah, I think the Wagner forces will have to, give it up. And then we have information that Prigozhin has arrived in Belarus, and this is confirmed by the information from the president of Belarus, and they say that they actually don't mind. So the minister of defense of Belarus actually said that they don't actually mind having Wagner within their army. So they say that such a unit in the army would not hurt me. I agree. Talk to them. So yeah, that's mind blowing, and this actually caused a lot of chaos on the Polish side because they are very worried. And so going to the front lines at the southern front of Mykolaiv in the Kherson region, the Ukrainian forces continue on their fighting over at Dachi, with the Ukrainian forces managed to increase their salient or the bridgehead over at this area here, as they managed to increase the gray zone between this area. The Ukrainian forces mostly are still stuck near the breach. However, they only are getting artillery shelling. They are not getting airstrikes because the Ukrainian forces are covered. S-300 is reportedly deployed at Svatove, and this, given the distance, the Ukrainian forces are able to have a massive aerial cover. This is not to scale, but as in they have a very huge air defense radius or umbrella around the bridgehead. And there's another S-300 being deployed at Pravdene, which is actually able to cover this air defense system that is much more closer to the front line. And on top of this, there is also electronic warfare units being deployed by the Ukrainian side that actually jams Lancet drones and other type of drones the Russians are using. So the Russians actually cannot get rid of this little force that is currently over on the southern side of the Antonovsky Bridge. However, this is not the southern side of the Kherson region. If you notice, this is actually an island. So it's pretty much still an island. It's not exactly the southern part of Kherson. However, the Russians are actually taking this very seriously as they continue to send forces to deal with this threat. And the highway will lead straight to Olishki. So and if the Ukrainians manage to come to Olishki, this will be as the exact southern side of the Dnieper, and the Ukrainian forces will be able to span out, go across the desert, and cause massive chaos on the Russian side. But of course, the Russians are pretty entrenched over in the southern area. How badly is this entrenchment and defenses affected by the flooding that happened during the Kakhovka Dam explosion is not so clear at this moment. Ukrainian forces are also reportedly sending reinforcement to the Antonovsky Bridge as we speak. The 93rd Mechanized Brigade is being sent over to the Antonovsky Bridge region, and they are also being sent over towards the Kakhovka Dam region. So over at this area here. And if the Ukrainian forces are able to cross the dam over at Nova Kakhovka, this Nova Kakhovka itself is on the southern side of the Dnieper. So this could be diversionary for the forces that is currently fighting over at this area here. We're not sure, but the Russians are definitely going to be very uptight. And I also want to highlight that this massive reservoir or lake river system along the Dnieper River is no longer looking like this. It's basically a small stream. And let me show you. This is a very blurry image, but as you can see, the river system is merely just a small little tiny stream or river that is going through in this direction. This is the river. It's just one small little river right now. And this is a original river, I believe, of the Dnieper. So the Ukrainian forces can theoretically easily cross over or even attack across this drying up river lake or river bed, or over at the on the western part of Nikopol, cross over at Zalota Balka, or attack directly at the Enohoda region, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. There is so many possibilities that the Ukrainian forces can deploy with this change of the water level over at this river here. So so looking at this strategic mapping can be, this mapping on the Google Maps can be very deceiving, as the Ukrainian forces can actually cross literally from anywhere, as long as they are willing to brave through possible airstrikes and artillery strikes across open ground. But if they're able to brave it through and the ground is actually hard enough, the Russian forces do not have a lot of very heavily prepared entrenchment over at this region. So yeah, something to watch. Over at the Zaporizhzhia Front, over the Kayamsky sector, there is some skirmishes happening over at Petikaki. This is not an offensive per se. There is both sides is actually holding the positions, and they are not exactly on the offensive on any of the sides. And over at the Orekhiv sector, so this is Orekhiv sector, the Ukrainian forces continue the attack south of Novodanilivka. Fighting is reported by near Novodanilivka by the Russian Defense Ministry. Although I did believe the front line is actually closer to Robotini than Novodanilivka, but of course, propaganda. And Deep State UA reported the fighting is north of Robotini. They're not sure what is the result of the fighting, and that is happening on the 26th. And by the 27th, the Russian Defense Ministry reported that the Ukrainian recon has been thwarted near Robotini. So it really depends on where the first report, the one at near Novodanilivka. Maybe it's fighting over here. I'm not sure. So yeah. So this is a situation over at the Novodanilivka. There is no more probing over at Myrny, nor fighting at the south of Malatomashka. So this is not happening. And should the Ukrainian forces manage to reach Robotini, this distance is not much left. Another 1 kilometer or plus, they will be effectively in the first line of defense of the Russians. So the Ukrainians are definitely making progress, slow but progress nevertheless. And over at the Huyaipole sector, there is no fighting over at this area here. And moving into the Velika Novoselka sector, first thing first is the acknowledgement and corroboration of the capture of Rivnopil. Surya Maps and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that Rivnopil has been captured by the Ukrainian forces after the triple direction attack by the Ukrainian forces that forces the Russians into a withdrawal. This withdrawal has been acknowledged by the pro-Russian source Ryba, as they say that after several days of continuous fighting, the Russian forces withdrew from the village and took up defense in the surrounding heights and the forest plantation, which, based on this Google map, I have no freaking idea where is the forest plantation or the heights. Yeah. Either way, the heights are usually not very, very big in terms of the difference. However, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 27th of June says that the Russian forces are fighting or counter-attacking towards Rivnopil. Yeah, fighting towards Rivnopil, and counter this attack so far probably did not work out, as I did not see this being mentioned by pro-Russian sources. The Ukrainian forces, after securing the western flank of the Makarivka, they started Staromayorsky. Information coming from Deep State UA that there is fighting reported along this line at Staromayorsky, and Ryba reported that two recon forces tried to penetrate the lines southwest of Makarivka, and however they got fought back. And further, over at the Levadne site, the Ukrainian forces continue to push towards Prigozhin, and they're fighting towards Prigozhin, and there is also a new attack being reported at Stepove. And the Stepove one is reported by Deep State UA, part of the lines of collision, they call it. And the one towards Prigozhin is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. So the Ukrainian forces is having a lot of success in this area here, and they are definitely going to continue to push, capture Stepove, Prigozhin, and do more things. You want to know more on this, you can actually watch the operational report that I've posted over at the main channel. And also know the Ukrainian forces over at Shetarsky has been sending reinforcement into this area here, so probably we might going to see a new attack over in the Donetsk Front on the Velikan Novoselka sector. And I did a live stream yesterday, so you might want to catch it over at the main channel. I talk a lot of geopolitics and updates. Basically, it was supposedly trying to watch the live telecast of Putin's speech, but it was underwhelming anyway. But yeah, we have a Q&A session and a lot of fun, and I think a lot of people liked it, so maybe you would like it if you haven't watched it. And also there is a UFO panel, DPA panel on UFOs and aliens, and yeah, something away from the Ukraine war. If you are interested, you can also catch it on the main channel at Defense Politics Asia. And continuing within the Donetsk Front at Marinka, we have fighting reported at Marinka according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 26th, and on the 27th as the Russian forces continue their attack. However, this attack is not mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry or pro-Russian sources, and usually the Russian Defense Ministry will say that the Ukrainians launched counter-attacks and whatnot. That was also not reported, which is pretty interesting if you ask me. And over at Krasnohorivka, Maroshinikov, the pro-Ukrainian sources pro-Ukrainian source reported that there is some small success near Krasnohorivka. So, which means that the Ukrainian forces managed to maybe make some more progress over at this area here, southwest of Staromihailivka, on the western part of Donetsk city. So this area here. And on the northern part of Donetsk city, the Ukrainian offensive at the Avdiivka front, the entire Avdiivka offensive has been abandoned. There is no more Ukrainian offensive over at this front. Instead, we only have this traditional Russian attack at Pervomaisky being reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Very quiet suddenly. However, I have to highlight that the Ukrainian forces have captured this stronghold north of Vodian. So, yes. And moving on, there is nothing at New York front. Moving into the Bakhmut front. At the Bakhmut front, the Ukrainian forces continue their Bakhmut offensive. Their pincer attack continues. As you can see, there is attack in this direction, in this direction, this direction. And yeah, so this is continuation of the pincer operations that is the double pincer operation that is currently ongoing. At Klishevka, on the western part of fighting is reported on the west of Klishevka as well as on the northwest of Klishevka. This is reported by Ryba, and the fighting is still ongoing. They say that the Ukrainian forces is using small groups to stretch the lines of the Russian armed forces and exhaust the personnel on the front line. And the goal is actually to press to the point where the certain parts of the defense line start to crack, and then the Ukrainian forces will concentrate on the crack and push through. So this is ongoing. And then there is also fighting reported near Ivanytsky, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, as they reported Ukrainian assault near Ivanytsky. And the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 27th reported that the Russians attacked southeast of Ivanytsky. Yeah. So I still think that it's the Ukrainians on the offensive. And then we have a shocking development. On the southwest of Bakhmut, the Ukrainian forces actually managed to capture this entire area here, southwest of Bakhmut. And as if this continues, the Ukrainian forces will be able to push all the way towards Opitne. Over here. Here's Opitne. So this is a salient. If the Ukrainian forces can continue to push, they can actually block the Russian forces within the Bakhmut city at the cemetery, and they can continue to capture Opitne, and then they will be able to cut off the highway, capture Ivanrad, and this will be a continuation of the inner pincer. So this is actually a pretty big development for the Ukrainian side, and I think this is actually a pretty positive. If you are pro-Ukrainian, I think this is a very positive development. For the Russians, this is actually a tremendously scary development, and I feel that the Russian armed forces will have to do something about this. And over at the northern flank, the Ukrainian forces is attacking in multiple directions. They first were on the 26th were attacking towards Avdiivka. However, they abandoned the attack after a mortar strike. However, fighting eventually still reached Avdiivka. Fighting is reported at Avdiivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Fighting is also reported near Yakhine, based on the mapping by Ryba. So the Ukrainian forces is attacking towards Avdiivka and towards Yakhine. In fact, they managed to have this push. The Russian forces have been pushed back over at this area on the southern part, along this defense line. The Ukrainian managed to have some progress. Fighting is also reported at Bodanivka. It was first reported as a Russian attack by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 26th. On the 27th, Myroshnikov said that the Ukrainians actually made progress over at Bodanivka. There is, however, airstrike reported on the 26th by the Russian Defense Ministry at Bodanivka. And over at Orikovo-Vasilivka, the Ukrainian forces is continuing the attack in this area here. Information from Deep State UA and Myroshnikov on the 27th. The Deep State UA is on the 26th. So the situation here is actually very critical for the Russians, in my opinion. The pressure is very, very high on the Russians, and you can see the fighting is exclusively on the flanks, and this is actually a wise thing to do, because I did mention that it makes no sense for the Ukrainians to go into the city, and they should actually do the pincer around. They don't need a lot. You just need Opitne, and then you just need Yakhine, Pihorodne. It's basically the same towns that I said that the Russians need to capture, and to do operational encirclement. Now the situation just simply become reversed, and Ukrainians will be able to just capture these few towns, and they will achieve a certain level of operational encirclement of the Russian forces within the Bakhmut city. Further up north, there is fighting reported at Vasilkivka. According to Myroshnikov, they say that there is some small advance near Vasilkivka, according to him. But not sure what is the advance, because Myroshnikov do not post mappings. So you just have to take his word for it. And over at the Siversk Front, the Ukrainian forces continue their attack on the southern side of Siversk Front, with airstrike reported at Rozdolivka. And the Russian airstrike here, because there is Ukrainian forces that is trying to attack southward, and previously we do have reports of fighting at Sako-Ivaseti. This was from the previous SITREP. The Ukrainian forces mainly is being reported to be fighting at Versailles, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, and Yakovlivka, towards Yakovlivka. This is also corroborated by Ryba. And on the 27th, the fighting continues at Yakovlivka, according to the Ryba, the pro-Russian source, with the Ukrainian forces continue to be pushing in this direction. And this is their prime target. Capturing Yakovlivka will cut off this highway towards Soleda. So it's pretty significant. And further on the eastern part of the Siversk Front, there is fighting reported at Sperne from the 26th and the 27th, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. And there is also fighting reported at Verkhomo-Okayamsky, according to Russian Defense Ministry. They say that the probing is by the Ukrainian Special Operation Forces. And over at Bilohorivka, the Ukrainians are also attacking on the 26th. So 26th, 27th, 26th, and 27th. So yeah, the fighting is still ongoing in this area here, and this looks like a pretty big Siversk offensive. You know, there's offensive in this area, this direction, and then it goes south, and this area. How can so the pro-Russians, the Ukrainian offensive is ongoing. So stop dissing. Stop. You have to start worrying and start crying. Cry. No, cry. Enough in emotional damage. Over at the Kreminna Front. At the Kreminna Front, the Russian forces continue their Serbia assault. And the assault is being reported by the Russian Defense Ministry and Deep State UA. The Russian Defense Ministry reported a pretty long report. And then they say that with artillery preparation, they shell them first, and then the VDV go into the assault, capturing Ukrainian positions. And then with feelings and brains, they managed to broke through strongholds and whatnot. Yeah, not important. All these details are not important because they never show exactly on the mapping what they have captured. The Ukrainian forces probed Dibrova on the 27th of June, yesterday, with the Russians attacking in this direction. So that's all from the Kreminna Front. And then there is the Ukrainian offensive at Kreminna has been abandoned as well. So after the Wagner forces kind of failed them, so they also give up the Kreminna offensive. So Kreminna. Over at the Svatove Front, there is a Ukrainian Defense Ministry report of the Russians attacking Avdiivka, and there is no traditional report of the skirmishes at Novosibirsk or Berestove. So yeah, surprising. And over the Kupyansk Front, we have 0 reports over the Kupyansk Front. There's literally nothing. Yeah. So other than artillery shelling, which I don't want to report on them. So yeah, that's all from the Kupyansk Front. There's nothing at the borders, and that's it. This is the summary and SITREP for the day of 488 to 489 for the 26th to 27th of June for the Ukraine war or the special military operation in Ukraine. And so press the like button. Subscribe if you are new to this channel or you have not subscribed. Do subscribe because the DPA War channel is very important as well. Not just the main channel. Subscribing allows YouTube to push this to more viewers, especially those that have never heard DPA before. So if you appreciate my work, pressing that 1 button or 2 buttons, it's a very small price to pay. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next update.